So you've inherited a WordPress site and you want to start developing for it, but you don't want to go commando on the production site. Smart. How do you set up a local development environment? In this video, I'll walk you through setting up a simple dev environment on Ubuntu desktop. WordPress typically runs off a LAMP stack. Not always, but most sites do. So that's what we'll set up. LAMP stands for L, Linux, the operating system, in this case Ubuntu, A, Apache, the web server, M, MySQL, the database, and P, PHP, the server-side scripting language. The first step is to make sure you're completely up to date. So let's open up the terminal and run sudo apt-get update. This will just take a minute. Type in your password. And depending on how far behind, you should be done. Now we install the LAMP server. Run sudo apt-get install LAMP server. Don't forget the caret. Accept all of the packages. This will run all of the packages and modules you need to run a web server locally. Since Ubuntu 10, there's this. It's pretty easy, right? You'll get a prompt to set a password for the root user for MySQL. Even though this is local, it's best to keep up with best practices, so don't just press enter. I'll keep this running so you can see exactly how quick it is. Should only take a minute. Meanwhile, we'll open up a browser. And there we go. To test this, in your browser, go to localhost, and you should get the Apache success page. It works. Let's test PHP as well. So we need to create a file. So type sudo touch var www html, and we'll call the file info.php. Now let's edit that. Sudo nano var www html. The HTML directory hosts all the files that Apache will run. That's why we put that file there. A PHP open tag, and we'll run PHP info just to test it. Exit and save. In your browser, go to localhost/info.php, and you should get the PHP info screen, which means PHP is running correctly. Now, in order to keep up with best practices, once that's done, let's run the MySQL secure installation. So sudo user bin MySQL secure installation. Enter the password you were prompted to create before. No, you don't need to change the password that you just set, but say yes to everything else. And in order to run WordPress, we'll need to create a database for WordPress. So go into MySQL under root, and we'll create a database. We'll call it WordPress. Don't forget the semicolon. Let's make sure that worked. So show databases, semicolon. And there it is, the bottom one. Exit out of there. Almost ready to install WordPress. We just have to deal with some permissions so we can code comfortably. First, we'll need to grant Apache access to the HTML directory. So type sudo chown recursively. www-data is the user for Apache in Ubuntu. So that we're setting the user and the group to Apache. Let's make sure it's the right directory. And let's do everything under www. We also need to add ourselves to Apache's group so that we can work inside that directory. So sudo usermod a g. We want to add ourselves, my username is Jack, to the www data. In order for this to take effect, you have to log out and log back in again. Let's navigate to var www html and see if we have access to this. No, we can't create a folder, we can't create new documents yet. That's because under permissions, we can only access the files, we can't create or delete the files. So the owner can, Apache can, but the group, even though we're part of that group, we can't. So in order to fix that, to open up the terminal again, and we'll change the permissions chmod recursively to 775. That's not ideal for a server, but since this is local, for convenience, we'll do that. And you should be able to create files and folders now. Now it's WordPress time. In your browser, go to wordpress.org/latest.zip. That will download WordPress for us. Opening it up, and let's extract it straight to our local web server. So that's var www html, extract here. We'll exit out. And we're localhost. The directory is called WordPress. Create a configuration file. Let's go. Now we have a database, we called it WordPress. The database username is root. On a live server, you shouldn't keep it root. That's not safe, but this is, for expedience sake, we'll keep it at that. That's for another screencast. Our password, and sorry, you can't write to config. That's because we just copied these files to this directory, but the permissions are wrong. Permissions are under Jack because I moved them. Apache can't touch those files. So we just have to type, with your keyboard, press up, and we'll set the permissions and the ownership for that directory. In your browser, press back and resubmit, and it works. So run the install, and let's set up, we'll call our site test, username, and my very secure password, and type in your email. Install WordPress. Success. Login. Username, password, and we're in. Now, let's test this to make sure we can actually develop here. So I'll open up my favorite editor, current favorite editor, and let's open up our Apache home. Going to WordPress. Let's find this template file. I think this is 2014. Open up the index page. And hello world. Reload the page. Voila! Congratulations! Now you have a development environment and a site that you can develop and break with impunity.